Alright, going to be working on a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Going to do the front brakes. First thing, take tires off. Alright, I'm going to make some room for the brake fluid that is going to come back up in here when I push the piston back into the caliper. Also, I don't have to pump as much dirty fluid out when I put the new brake fluid in. Anytime I do the brakes, I change out the brake fluid. Because it's hydroscopic. That means it absorbs water. And although most people don't ever mess with it, I do change out the brake fluid every once in a while. I'm not crazy about it. I don't do it every year, every 2 years. I kind of just do it when I do the brakes. Alright, it's a little bit difficult to see the pads, but you can see the tabs. The inside tab is closer to the rotor than the outside tab. So the inside is worn more, uneven. That's pretty typical. Rotor's pretty rusty. So we'll be changing that rotor out even though it doesn't matter. Got a little bit of galding there. No big deal, but I have the parts. I'll change it out. Alright, I'm also going to change out the brake hoses. The pedal's kind of soft, and actually that's because of the brake hoses right here. They will expand over time, and that's your mushy feeling. A lot of people think it's other things, but once you replace your brake hoses, you'll feel a nice factory new firm pedal. The best way to tell them apart is you'll notice the tab at the top. One hole's on the right, one hole's on the left. You just kind of match that up if you're not 100% sure which is left, which is right. So it's easy enough. You just find where it bolts on there. And you'll see that tab. This one, the hole is on the right. So that'll be this guy right here. Easy enough. Calipers are pretty straightforward. We'll just put a 1/2-inch socket on here and take the caliper off. There's one bolt top, one bolt bottom. Alright, I'll remove the bolts. And what I like to do is I like to rock the caliper. It kind of compresses the piston a little bit to break it loose. Alright, let's get this off of there. And then you just hammer off the outside one. And I leave the inside brake pad on, and I press against that to compress the piston. So I'll go get my clamp and compress that. In the meantime, I'll set it on my hook out of the way. Alright, the rotor just comes right off. That's as easy as pie. Nowadays, brake pads come with anti-squeal shims on them, so you really don't have to lube them up and put all that goop on there like you used to have to do in the old days. The only thing I'm going to do is make sure it's lubricated at the contact points, and that's about it. Alright, I'll just open up the C-clamp. and compress the piston. Alright, pop the old pad off. New pad on. Yeah, it's hard to do on camera. I have to take my holder off of here. Now just hammer the new one on. Snaps right in place. It's even worked left. Alright, I'll put the new rotor on and put it in place. Alright, just clean off the new rotor. Alright, what I'd like you to observe is this lip right here. You can see the rust here and the rotor here. And my point is there's a difference. The rotor is actually worn in here, and the rust, of course, builds up because it oxidizes. That makes it difficult for the pads to come off, and you have to usually beat the caliper with a hammer. So I'll show you that on this other side here. I've already done the driver's side. I'm going to do the passenger side, and I'll videotape that portion. See all that build up? It's going to make the caliper difficult to come off. Don't be shy with the hammer. So Jeeps are easy in that there's only 2 bolts that hold on the caliper, and the rotor just clears. There's no taking off the bracket here. You don't have to remove the bracket. Just remove these 2 bolts, move the caliper out of the way, and you can take the rotor off. So remove the bottom bolt and the top bolt, and then the caliper just comes right off, but we're going to have to beat it off because of the ridge I talked about earlier. I have my little bungee hook pre-staged so I can hook the caliper onto it when it's ready. And so now it's just a matter of getting it off of there. There we go. Just the outside pads, you just knock those off. The inside, I'm going to leave the pad on and compress it with the C-clamp. So let me go ahead and hook this guy up here. Alright, just put my clamp on here and compress it. I'm going to finish the dirty work. I'll take the old one out, take the old rotor off. Yeah, it comes off that easy. And Oops, wrong way. And then I'll change gloves for clean work. These little clips that hold the rotor on. Now, to take them off, you just take a pair of needle nose pliers and you get up underneath behind them. You just twist it, break it, just rip it off. The ones that are on there. And the new ones, they just push on. Odds are you're not going to have them, or remember to get these. It's not important. It just keeps the rotor flush while you get the caliper on. No big deal. Okay. I've sprayed off the rotor with some brake cleaner. Goes right on. If you want to reuse the clips, well, you don't reuse them, they'll be destroyed. You put your new clips on. You just push on. Sometimes I use socket to scoot them on the rest of the way. And that'll get you ready to put the rotor back on. Put your inside pad in. It's always fun. Sometimes you need a hammer. And you definitely need a hammer for this one. You've been going to the gym a lot. There we go. And the other thing is the caliper adjusting sleeve here, they need to be pushed all the way back. Crap. All right, the inside one clicks in till it's flush with the piston. You may need a hammer to tap that in place. The outside one, you definitely need a hammer to hit that in place. I didn't show you that because it was off camera, so now I'm just talking about it. And these little holes right here, there's a clip in the pad, and that indent, I guess, or will index into that hole. And then to put the caliper back on, I usually lube the four corners. Then you start it at the bottom and rotate it up. And so that's a nice tight fit, so you just hammer it on. Yep, there it is. Make sure it's indexed on the bottom and it's indexed on the top. And you put your bolts back in and you're done. Assembly tip is make sure both bolts are started before tightening them down. Because if you tighten one down and this one's not lined up, then you're going to have to untighten it.